Let me get right to the point today. I'm breaking a promise, just like it said in the title. I have promised that I was going to connect the Kubota LX3310 to the TS10 Flexwing mower and demonstrate it on this channel. I'm a pretty determined guy, and I've tried pretty hard at this, but I'm not able to make it work. Now, I don't think that's the most interesting part of the story. I think the interesting part of the story is why we can't make it work. So that's what this episode is about. We're going to go through 4 reasons why I was unable to connect and use this Flexwing mower on this tractor. Let's get started. You pay $3 for this kind of ride at the fair. Let's take a look at these 4 reasons why I couldn't connect, and it'll actually kind of enlighten us on some of the unique features of the rear end of this tractor. I think it'll be very helpful for us. Let's start with the first one, which is the length of the drawbar. If you've watched our videos for a while, you've seen that I had some trouble with my 2038R when connected to the TS10. That wasn't a problem with the tractor, it was a problem right here. I didn't read and follow the directions. Well, the directions make it very clear that the drawbar pinhole has to be at least 14 inches away from the tip of the PTO shaft. Well, I'm sensitized to that now, so I won't be tearing up another one like that. So in this case, I've got the drawbar in the furthest out position, and I'm about 8 inches away from the tip of the PTO shaft. So I've already got a big problem. I need another 6 inches back. How am I going to do that? Well, I could get a longer drawbar. Okay, let me show you. On the right here is the drawbar out of the 2038R. This is the drawbar out of this tractor. I could just use that. By the way, it's the same dimensions except for length. So I could just insert that right here. We would have that problem solved. So that wasn't that difficult, right? I could just use my 2038R drawbar, put it in here. Let's measure that distance. I'm at 15 inches. Problem solved. Let's move on. Yeah, it's not that easy. Before you start asking about how you get a longer drawbar to solve this issue, let's move on to number 2, because it just compounds the issue and is just going to make it where we're not going to be able to connect at all. So don't get too excited about that. The vertical distance between the top of the drawbar and the center of the PTO shaft here is 5 inches. The ASABE, whatever, American Society of Agriculture and Biological Engineers, right? This is the standards group. And they specify a standard that is somewhere around 8 inches between the tip of the drawbar, the top side of the drawbar, and the center of the PTO shaft vertically. We need that extra distance because the PTO joint itself, the big U joint, is several inches around. In fact, I believe it's about 5 inches in radius, so close to 10 inches in diameter. So it barely fits in here. I'm giving a hint of number 3. The bigger issue is that when you're on uneven terrain, and let's say the front end of the tractor goes down or the mower goes down, you can see that this is the hinge point. That shaft and all that U-joint will get closer and closer to the connection. And of course, you don't have all of this space because the actual tongue from the TS10, as well as the hitch pin or bolt or whatever you have in there, sticks up even further. So you have very little room here when you've only got essentially 4.5 inches below that pin. And you know, by the time you put all the shields on there, it's pretty risky. So we need that full 8 inches. So for our drawbar, we're going to have to lower the drawbar in addition to just moving it backwards. So that U-joint, that big CV joint, is right here. So I would need this drawbar all the way in. I don't even know if I can, maybe I can't do that. And I'm just gonna, like I say, just kind of cobble this together as to the idea we had for this lengthened drawbar. And again, this is just a prototype. We would actually weld something for this, but you'll see the idea we had in mind. So the idea was, and we'd actually probably either need a longer bolt or we would weld it, but the idea was to use the existing drawbar, put another drawbar below it, right? And then we would either weld it right here, you know, with another piece of steel. Obviously we can't weld to our existing drawbar because we might want to use it normally, but so the idea was to come back here and lower. There's a concern here that we're still protruding too much before we get to that CV joint. The second concern is actually under the tractor. So I'm going to raise it up a little bit higher and give you a look under there. Now we're under the tractor, looking from front to rear. And I'm showing the other end of this extra piece of steel that we might put under here. And I'm concerned about the load. I mean, we've extended that drawbar out by another at least 10 inches from where it was before. And this end back here is going to be putting upward pressure on the housing here, or you know, maybe this piece of steel here. I'm just leery that we might be having too much tongue weight to be able to make this approach work. The last thing I want to do is you know, break the whole rear end out of this tractor and leave it sitting on the ground. Yeah, so maybe what we should do next step is actually measure the tongue weight of the mower. What you got there?
Well, depending on the millisecond, 943. Yeah, it settled on 943.
I'm willing to call that 1,000 pounds. Now remember, this is a static load. So this is just, by that I just mean it's stationary. There's nothing moving. In the field, that's not the way it's going to be, right? Everything's going to be bouncing, you're going to hit holes. So this 943 pounds will be kind of the minimum we'll see. I mean, we get it bouncing, we'll see a lot more than that.
Now it's 942. Oh. 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 Let's not show that on camera. Yeah. Yeah.
So assuming that I'm riding there on the drawbar while we're mowing, that's going to be a lot of weight.
Let's hope you're not doing that.
These two drawbar issues, length as well as distance from the PTO shaft, are probably enough to discourage most of you from trying any type of a pull type brush mower. So, you know, but like I said, I'm a little bit more determined, and I was gonna make this work. So even though there might have been a little strain here, and 1,000 pounds is a lot to put on there, I thought we could get it far enough under there that we could make this work. Maybe not totally comfortable with it, but this next one, actually the next two together, changed my opinion. I asked a friend for help on the drawbar modification, all that fab work that was going to need to be done there. I knew it needed to be done well, so I asked him over, and we had gone through all of the dry fit that I just showed you. And right before he was ready to go and proceed to build the drawbar kit for me, he said, why don't we take the machine out for a little bit of a dry fit? Why don't we just actually back it up, connect it to the mower? Yes, we won't be at the right distance. We'll just kind of measure that distance. We'll have the drawbar at the right height. We'll just give a good look at it and just make sure that everything else is okay. Well, he's a wise man. So the first thing I noticed when we hooked it up was we could barely get it hooked up, right? I mean, the PTO shield here is rubbing. The 3-point hitch here is rubbing on all sides. So this is item number 3 for me, is that I basically felt at that point this large CV joint is just not going to work. I looked at this a little bit further, and again, determination. I decided that I could take off this shield, and when I looked further, I could take off the entire 3-point hitch mechanism. So there's a pin way down here. I would just take off all the lift arms and these stabilizers, everything, just get it all out of here, and then that would free up the space. Yeah, it was going to be a pain, and I thought, yeah, it's getting worse, right? Well, number 1, number 2, number 3 is getting worse. But we decided that was going to work. Number 3, even though it looks like a pain to take off all the 3-point hitch just to hook up the mower, was not really insurmountable. I could do it. Thought we were done. Thought we were still going to go forward, and we decided to unhook it. And I didn't even reach in all the way on the shaft. I just gave it a tug here, and oh my goodness, the shaft came off by itself. Now this is a fancy PTO shaft here. When I pull this back, it locks, okay? So I don't have to hold this one like most PTO shafts. That makes it so much easier. So I can actually just put it on, put it up here. I have the splines lined up, that helps. And when I push it on, you'll hear it click. Actually, I actually heard it click, but then I slid on further and I thought, okay, so we actually thought it was on there, and I didn't detect till I went to pull it off that even though it had kind of clicked, it wasn't done. So this stubby PTO shaft doesn't provide enough room for this PTO connector. I'll show you again. We'll let you get a close-up here. I push that in. You do hear a click, but it's not the click we're looking for. But I push this all the way in, and I'm actually touching the housing there. But it's not on far enough that those little balls click into the slot, and so it's not fully attached. Okay, that's number 4. How can we try to solve that? One solution, or at least a potential solution to number 4 here, is one of these PTO links. I'm sure you've seen these advertised on the internet. I assume it'll fit right on here. Yeah, so it fits on appropriately, and then I would have to put this end in here. Okay. And that would allow me to connect this up. I'm still not sure why people think these are easier, but in any case, this would solve the issue because it would extend the PTO backwards another 5 inches. Unfortunately, back to item number 1, we had a 14-inch requirement, right, to make this work. That would mean we'd have to extend the drawbar 19 inches from the tip of the original PTO shaft, not 14 inches. And that's where I drew the line, right? I just felt like that's too much strain on the tractor to have 1,000 pounds, 19 inches out here. I probably should do a video on just basic connecting of your PTO shaft. I know that this PTO link is used as a tool to attempt to make that easier. I really don't see that being the solution. So I probably should do a dedicated video on that. That's not for today, but it is nice to have one and kind of play with it and see how it works. But I don't think it's for me. There's extra pin that goes in there. If you use this, make sure you cut your PTO shaft shorter or you extend your drawbar. Yeah. Next video, we're going to do a comparison. Just look at the rear end of this tractor as compared to the rear end of the large frame 2 series from Deere. Yes, they're different size tractors. There is no real apples to apples comparison. But for your information, we're going to show the differences of the kind of just the rear ends of these tractors just as a comparison, and you can use it however you wish. 4 reasons here. Drawbar was too short. Drawbar was too close to the PTO shaft. The 3-point hitch mechanism is too close here for this large CV joint, and the PTO shaft is simply too short. I don't like breaking promises. I really think the engine on this tractor would handle this mower, and I think it would be a nice combination, but it's just clearly not built to handle it. So I think maybe we've learned something. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim.
I think think a cat just went under the mower before.
Yeah, Bullseye's under there. Bullseye!
Come on out, kitty.
Can I turn the mower on now?
No.
No.
Come on, kitty.
He'll come out when I start shaking it.
Yeah.
Bullseye!